Madam President,
Sergeant at Arms.
we have distinguished guests within chambers. Association of the United States Army President and CEO, General Retired Carter Ham.
Please have our distinguished guests escorted to the head table.
Well, thanks very much and good morning. Partying last night, I think. That's right. I noticed that there's, Madam President, there's a bigger crowd here today than yesterday. I think that's perhaps because people heard yesterday that Mississippi is now selling shoes by the pair. Maybe that brought a larger audience. It is great to be with you. Madam President, members of the Executive Council, Executive Director Frank Yoakum, Sergeant Major Truxell, I think, is entering the room, Chief Master Sergeant Anderson, Command Sergeant Major Sampa, and so many more. I learned in my last job at United States Africa Command, the Africans have a wonderful tradition. When there's a large audience like this, each person in the audience worthy of individual recognition, the Africans say simply, all protocol observed. And so everybody is okay. So all protocol observed, and it is wonderful to be with you. With one exception, and I would single out this group in the back, the young soldiers and airmen who are here for professional development. It's great that you're here. You are the future, not just of this association, and not just of the Air Force, and not just of the Army. You are the future of the nation. Thank you for serving. Thank you for choosing to be here today. As you heard, I'm an old general, and I'm pretty accustomed to talking with crowds. I'm pretty comfortable actually speaking before Congress with senior military and civilian officials to presidents and prime ministers. Madam President, this is a little intimidating. So many sergeants major and chief master sergeants, and that's because I started my service as a young enlisted soldier, and I rose to the exalted position of being our battalion command sergeant major's driver. And so sergeants major and chief master sergeants are a little bit intimidating to me, so if you'll forgive me a little nervousness, I'll get through it. But I think it's a fair question to ask, why is some old Army general who never spent one day in the National Guard addressing the Enlisted Association of the National Guard of the United States? It's a fair question, I think. And I would offer you three reasons why I'm glad to be here. The first is two people many of you know. Sergeant Major of the Army retired Ken Preston, who's sitting in the back, and Sergeant Major retired Frank Yoakum, your very own Executive Director. The two of them said, hey, General, you ought to go there. And so one of the things I learned being an old general is you become an old general and wiser when you do what the sergeant major tells you to do. So that's kind of reason number one I'm here. The sergeants major say you ought to go. The second reason I'm here is math. Math. I'm not a math major, but I know enough about math that math makes sense. I'm privileged, as you heard, to lead the Association of the United States Army. The United States Army has just over 1 million soldiers in the total Army. 84% of the Army is enlisted. That's a pretty big number, And about 35% of the Army resides in the Army National Guard. So as the Association of the United States Army, we endeavor to support the total Army. I thought maybe, just maybe, it might make sense for our association to pay attention to the enlisted force of the United States Army, a large component of which resides in the Army National Guard. So that's kind of reason number two. Reason number three is, to me at least, the most important reason. And that is, though I never served in the National Guard, I believe in the National Guard. I believe that the citizen soldier, I believe that the citizen airman represents the very best of our country. At war and in peace, at home and abroad, the very best of America is represented in the National Guard. A few years ago, I was privileged to serve as the chair, to lead the congressionally appointed National Commission on the Future of the Army. The Army, the big Army and the Army National Guard were bickering about a number of issues. Aviation, some of you will remember, were at the top of that list. And so the Congress intervened and said, we're going to appoint a commission. And I was privileged to serve as the chairman of that commission. We rendered a report. It's about 260 some odd pages, 63 recommendations. It is, by the way, you can still find it on the website. It is, by the way, a perfect, and I mean perfect, cure for insomnia. So if you're having a trouble, tuck that little report under your pillow, you'll be good to go. But there's one phrase in that report that I believe is more important than all others. And it says simply, the nation has one army for sound reasons, historical, cultural, legal, operational, and strategic. The Army has three distinct, interdependent, and essential components: the regular Army, the Army National Guard, and the Army Reserve. And it's my view that it's only when the three components of the Army are properly sized, manned, trained, equipped, modernized, that the nation's Army, the total Army, can deliver the capabilities that the nation requires. That's what we at the Association of the United States Army endeavor to do. That's what we advocate for each and every day, with the Army, with the National Guard Bureau, with the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and with Congress. And it's why we formalized our partnership with your association, with the Enlisted Association of the National Guard of the United States. A few years ago, Sergeant Major Yoakum and we began a conversation about how our two associations might better support each other to achieve our mutual objectives. That led eventually, with the approval of the Executive Council, a formalized partnership between our two associations, one that I know has been of benefit to the Association of the United States Army, and I hope, Madam President and Mr. Executive Director, I hope has been beneficial to your association as well. We've continued to grow and strengthen that partnership over the past couple of years. We work together. And working together, we see expanded opportunities for education and professional development programs. We see opportunities for expanded member benefits, including scholarships and discount programs. We seek to use AUSA's long-standing relationship with the senior Army leaders to advance the voice of EANGUS with the Army, and our combined voices, whether it's speaking to the Army, to National Guard Bureau, to the Congress, our combined voices carry more weight, and we've seen some positive outcomes already. In our work with Congress, you've heard some comments already from the EANGUS leadership and from others, but we share many common goals. The most important of which we believe has been the two-year budget agreement approved by the Congress. That settles a lot of uncertainty moving forward for this year and next fiscal year. We believe that important. Still work to be done. They've got to pass an actual budget and to avoid a continuing resolution. EANGUS and AUSA are aligned in that regard. We support at AUSA, we support end strength growth, reasonable end strength growth for all three components of the Army, but particularly for the Army National Guard, that end strength growth must also be met with sufficient resources to train, modernize, and equip growth in end strength. We support, and I am concerned about the integrated pay and personnel system Army. You heard about that yesterday, where Pennsylvania has fielded that system with great effect. but frankly, we're having some challenges in the Congress in sustaining the level of funding necessary to extend IPSA across the Army National Guard, and the Army Reserve. We've got some work to do during conference. AUSA has partnered with EANGUS. We've voiced our concern about some of the changes that are proposed in Army medicine and defense-wide medicine to make sure that the core mission of providing medical support in combat zones is retained. We support the expansion of TRICARE Reserve Select. As the President said yesterday, we are supportive, along with you, and the proper accounting and credit for those who have served under Section 12304 Bravo to make sure that they get adequate credit for that service. Those issues and many more, EANGUS and AUSA are closely aligned and moving forward. In all that AUSA does, though, we remember that as we were reminded in song yesterday, that it has always been about the soldier. Our mission at AUSA is to be a voice for the Army and to provide support for the soldier. Our partnership with EANGUS strengthens our ability to do just that. And I'm deeply personally and professionally appreciative of the opportunity to work together with EANGUS. We look forward to seeing many of you at our AUSA annual meeting in Washington, D.C., 14 through 16 October. This is a big year for the Army, a new secretary, a new chief of staff, a new sergeant major of the Army, and we look forward to, again, strengthening our relationship with you during that annual meeting. And we very much look forward to seeing many of you next year in Little Rock for the Big Dam Conference, all right, which I think will be great fun. But thank you, each and every one of you, for what you do every day in support of soldiers and airmen, in support of our Army, as part of our Air Force, and in support of our nation. You truly make a difference, and it is a great honor and privilege for the Association of the United States Army to be formally aligned with the Enlisted Association of the National Guard of the United States. Thank you for allowing us to be your partner. Madam President, thank you very much for allowing me to join you.
Thank you, General Ham, for your comments, and we really do appreciate the partnership with AUSA, and so I'm giving you our conference coin in appreciation. Thank you so much for being here.
Madam President. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sergeant at Arms, please escort our distinguished guest from the floor.